Well, Disney decided to close Muppet Vision 3D.
Yes,
I hate this. I dislike this greatly. You can see right here, we covered the story last night on the Pro Show, but for all those who didn't catch it, unfortunately, Muppet Vision 3D is closed forever, and that is super, super sad. Now, there was some great fanfare on that last day. A lot of people came in and just overwhelmed the park with so much enthusiasm. You can see right here, people are lining up in the Rise of Resistance queue, not for Rise of Resistance itself, but actually as a holding pen for showings of Muppet Vision 3D on its last day. You can see right here that the Muppet Vision 3D queue, or at least the wait time, actually eclipsed Rise of Resistance for that last day.
That made me happy to see, because nothing, I mean, Galaxy's Edge, Rise of Resistance is a good ride, don't get me wrong, but Galaxy's Edge is, it is representative of, creatively bankrupt modern Disney. And, Muppet Vision 3D is just was a masterpiece. So it made me very happy to see personally.
It is pretty fun to see people actually lining up in places designed for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge by, I think, a crew that missed the mark for an attraction like Muppet Vision 3D. That is such a love letter to Jim Henson and his work. That's really, really cool stuff right here. Oh, awesome. Very cool.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think if it was like, hey, we're taking down Muppet Vision 3D for Bluey Land or something like that, like something that was relevant to kids today, I would still be upset, but I think I would understand the decision a bit more. What kid today is like, oh, Monsters, Inc.?
Well, even so, that's funny that you bring that up, because even Disney has its own hierarchy in terms of IP, right? Because literally, like days before they closed the Muppets, in order to make way for Monsters Inc. Land, which, by the way, the theater will still be there, but the Muppets won't be, they announced that they were going to be closing Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue on the West Coast for an Avatar-themed land. So it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and get rid of this franchise for another franchise that we're also getting rid of here. It is absolutely bizarre. But the Muppets won't be going away forever, because as we know, they will be moving over to, well, a ride hosted by Aerosmith right now, and that's Rock and Roller Coaster over there on the other side of Disney Hollywood Studios in Sunset Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken. And, well, Disney decided to highlight that on the last day of operation for the Muppets, or maybe it was like near the last day, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but they went ahead and highlighted that with Kermit himself, but it didn't go all according to plan. This from That Park Place. Muppet fans roast new Kermit the Frog voice on final day of Muppet Vision 3D as Disney announces Rock and Roller Coaster overlay. This June 10th, 2025, by Marvin Montenaro. Many Muppets fans got their first taste of Matt Vogel, the new voice of Kermit the Frog, this weekend, and the responses were less than ideal for Disney. Disney's Hollywood Studios bid farewell to Muppet Vision 3D last week, a beloved attraction and the final project overseen by Muppet creator Jim Henson before his death in 1990. The closure was a gut punch to fans, who cherished the 3D show as a time capsule of Henson's creative vision. Adding salt to the wound, Disney released a video on the final day featuring Kermit the Frog, announcing that the Muppets would replace Aerosmith in Rock and Roller Coaster sometime in 2026. For many, the announcement was overshadowed by a jarring voice of Kermit, performed by Matt Vogel, whose interpretation has struggled to win over longtime devotees since he assumed the role in 2017. So here you go. Let's go ahead and listen to Matt Vogel.
We have to.
We do, because we really have to have people understand just what people are reacting to. So here you go. This is the original tweet put out by Walt Disney World's X account. And let's go ahead and see if we can tune in right here. Make sure there's no background noise. Okay. And here we go.
Hi-ho, everyone! Hey, the Muppets are busy packing things up and getting ready for our big move to Sunset Boulevard in Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. I can't tell you how excited we are to be part of Rock and Roller Coaster, the first ever Muppet coaster in existence. That is, if you don't count Gonzo's homemade laundry chute roller coaster in our old theater. which I do not. So, anyway, we will see you all there in 2026. Ah.
Okay.
It sounds like a yay. You give us something. Like what are you? Like here's the thing. Like everyone in the world can do a Kermit the Frog impression except for Matt Vogel. He's the only person in the world who can't do a good Kermit.
Yeah, it just does not sound like Kermit. And I mean, the reactions were very, very harsh. We can see right here, if we scroll down, the video marked the first exposure for some fans to Vogel's Kermit, a stark departure from the warm, earnest frog voice by Henson and his successor, Steve Whitmire. Social media erupted with criticism as fans on X expressed their disappointment. This by Fake Wizard right here responding, "Where's the real Kermit, and what have you done with him, you sick monsters?" Mike Watai, awful. You can't convince me this isn't done on purpose to repel people. Oh, goodness gracious. Lazarus Long. An AI Kermit would have sounded better than this awful thing.
Awful thing.
Disney Magic Mike. Ouch. That's a rough Kermit voice. Is the real one okay? Ooh.
The real one.
And we know who the real one is.
Yes,
Degrees Tower Truth. Gosh, I hope the awful voice actor Disney got for Kermit is not indicative of the caliber in the upcoming changes. However sad and disappointed, I wanted to hold on to at least 5% of hope. Man, and it just goes on and on and on. Marvin, your initial reactions, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question regarding the voice of Kermit in just a moment. So what was your take on all of this? Do you think the responses are adequate?
You know what? It was a bit of catharsis for me during a day where I was just really, really upset by the fact that this thing that I love so much is going away for no reason whatsoever, for no good reason at all. You are looking at when I was looking at the responses to this, I couldn't find a good one. I couldn't find a positive one. It was one of the most universally panned things I've ever seen on social media. Matt Vogel, this guy, he is not only a terrible Kermit, he also took over for Carol Spinney for Big Bird, and he's terrible at that too. Like, and his Big Bird sounds exactly like his Kermit, almost only a little bit higher pitched. It sounds like, which is funny because Matt Vogel was Constantine, the world's most dangerous frog in Muppets Most Wanted. And it sounds like Constantine doing his comically bad impression of Kermit the Frog.
Man, it's just, it's a 1-2 punch, right? As I think your article beautifully mentioned, because we're losing such a direct connection to Jim Henson and those original creators who brought those characters to life. I mean, it really is an embodiment of the Muppets and who they were, not who they are. And so to launch this new era for the Muppets in the form of Rock and Roller Coaster and new voice talent and so forth, it just, I don't think it was the impression that Disney was looking for. I want to go ahead and ask you, Marvin, because Steve Whitmire was actually there on the last day. And, he was.
I'm sure he paid admission to get in. Like, there's no way Disney invited him there as some kind of special guest.
Right. Yeah, because, and I kind of want to ask you this. What happened between Steve Whitmire and Disney in those to create the situation in the first place? Because so Steve is Jim Henson's chosen successor. I mean, he's the guy that Jim Henson, before he passed away, said, "You are going to be Kermit. You're going to take." At the time, it wasn't "if I die." It was I'm going to be doing a lot of all this other stuff with Disney Imagineering. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of other stuff behind the scenes. I need somebody to step in and perform Kermit for me. And he chose Steve Whitmire, who was he? He was like a young gun. He was I've always said it was kind of like a surrogate son for Jim in a lot of ways. And you could tell with the way Steve talks about Jim that he definitely viewed him as a father figure. But Steve was very defensive of the Muppets. He would push back when he thought that Disney was taking them in a direction that was out of character. Specifically, there was an issue in the, which I believe this show was ahead of its time, but the Muppets mockumentary show on ABC that only lasted for one season, there was a storyline they wanted to do in which Kermit would lie to Robin.
And Steve Whitmire was like, absolutely not. He would not lie to. He would never ever lie to Robin. And so they fired him because he kept pushing back on things. He also apparently was involved in some kind of union dispute against Disney as well. So they axed him, and then Brian Henson, who I've always believed in some way was jealous of Steve Whitmire, came out, and Brian Henson like said horrible things about Steve Whitmire, about how like when he sold the Muppets to Disney in the early 2000s, how he wished that he would have fired Steve Whitmire before then, because he knew they were giving him such a problem, and it was just they not only fired the man, but they torched him on the way out. Like torched him. It's absolutely despicable. Frank Oz said the same thing. Frank Oz basically was like, I don't know if Disney got rid of Frank Oz from the Muppets, or if Frank Oz just refuses to do it, because Frank Oz also pushed back. But Disney also needs Frank Oz to be Yoda. So
right. And so it's like, well, okay, that's that franchise is, I think, in the list of hierarchy for franchises for the Walt Disney Company, Yoda's maybe higher on that list than some of Frank's work with the Muppets themselves. So it's like, okay, let's go ahead and keep this guy in our good graces. Steve Whitmire right now does not do any voices for any of the Muppets characters.
Nope. No, he doesn't. He was, and he was actually pretty heavily involved in Muppet Vision 3D, because he's Bean Bunny.
Yes, I believe Walt Disney Release Today did a kind of a special honoring the Muppets right there, and that was really, really cool to see. But Steve Whitmire was a part of that, and he was kind of showing the audience, how they brought that character to life in that way. I believe there's a good little clip online going, talking about how they were able to create bubbles for that scene in which he blows bubbles at what is it, Miss Piggy, and during her, solo during that piece. It's really, really good stuff. It's just really, it's just heart-wrenching to see, because it's like, wow, this deep connection to Jim Henson's, like I was saying, original work now gone, stripped away from us entirely, and there's not even, it's like the soul of the Muppets have been stripped away without these incredible voices, without these great puppeteers that made them what they were back in the day. And this just, I think, illuminated to fans just what they were missing at the worst possible time. And it's sad to see. Marvin, do you have any hope for this new Aerosmith, or I should say, Rocket Roller Coaster attraction starring the Muppets?
No, absolutely not. It's going to be this version of Kermit. It's going to be, because what you're not only losing Jim Henson's final work, but you're losing the performance of Jim Henson. You're losing the performance of Steve Whitmire as Rizzo and Bean. You're losing Frank Oz as Sam Eagle, Fozzie Bear, and Miss Piggy. You're losing Jerry Nelson. You're losing Richard Hunt as Scooter. These guys that either don't work for the Muppets anymore, or they're dead. So this was a lot. This was it for a lot of them. And it's sad. It really is. This iconic shot right there, the Miss Piggy statue. They proudly display the Jim Henson idea, man. By the way, I've not watched this Ron Howard documentary on Disney Plus, because I'm like, I'm not interested in Disney's take on who Jim Henson was. If I want to watch a Jim Henson documentary, folks, and if you do too, go watch the Defunctland multiple part series on that on YouTube. It's fantastic, and they do an amazing job. I know Heather Henson was there, one of Jim's kids. I think she was the last person to ever go in. It's just disgusting that Disney's like inviting the Henson family to this, like it's some celebration. I'm like, you're destroying this thing.
Yeah, you are. It's really, really sad, and I just hope that whatever future the Muppets have, if they have one at all, is somewhat bright and optimistic, like what they left us with Muppet Vision 3D.
But some people are saying that the Muppets are going to take the place of the villain show eventually, which I'm like, keep dreaming. That's not going anywhere. Others like me believe that what they should do is bring them into Epcot in the Imagination Pavilion and take over the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience Captain EO Theater, and make that into the Muppet Theater, which would make sense also because in the Muppets Go to Walt Disney World, another one of the final things Jim Henson ever produced, which is a great made-for-TV movie, there is actually a fun moment in front of the jumping fountains. So there is some Muppet history there as well, but they're not going to do that either. Why would they?
There's no way. I mean, there's absolutely no way. They clearly wanted to reduce the operating costs of this show. Otherwise, they would have kept it. There's no reason to transfer it anywhere. You could have incorporated it very nicely into a Monsters Inc. world. They didn't want to explore that. I think they wanted to reduce operating costs for basically all audio animatronics driven shows going forward, and it was a victim of basically new management. That being Muppet Vision 3D. It's really sad to see.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.